John Kellogg. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Vice President of Business Development here at Listingbook. Welcome to this, now the 6th seminar of our 2016 Listingbook Success Series. We're proud to be hosting these webinars, answering questions and concerns you as agents have regarding the current technology and marketing trends and how these impact your business. At Listingbook, our goal is to help you create clients for life, and I believe you'll find the content of today's webinar both relevant and actionable. Our topic today is Content is Still King. To address our topic, we continue to enjoy the expertise of the managing partners of Cave Social, Jordan Sheltgen and Justin Kirby. And Cave Social is a social media marketing agency that specializes in real estate marketing. Jordan and Justin are contributors to Inman News, Riz Media, RE Technology, and today they'll be helping us understand how to better understand content as king. I'm sure you'll have questions as they are presenting. Please go ahead and type them into the chat area, as we'll be having a Q&A session following their presentation. And our Q&A arguably is one of the most meaningful parts of our webinar, so you'll want to be sure to stick around. I have 2 questions I'd like to ask before we get started. And you'll see a chat area on your screen. If you would respond just by typing your response into the chat area, please type the number of webinars you have attended with us. If you've been to all 6, then just type in the number 6. Or if it's your first webinar, just type in the number 1 if you would, please. Okay, thanks. And then please, if you're currently a pro Listingbook user, type the word pro into the chat area. Just type the word pro into the chat area. Okay, great. Let me pass off the mic now to Jordan and Justin as they help us understand the importance of content.
Thanks, John. We're really excited to be here. Like always, this has been a really exciting series. We're hoping we can give a ton of value today. As for some housekeeping, one, I know we're having some audio issues. Can you guys, if you can hear us okay, could you just type a yes into the chat really quickly? I want to make sure that we're awesome. Thank you everyone who typed that in. So we're coming through clear. So you guys know today's session will be recorded. So if there are any questions that come up, if we go over something too quickly, do not worry. This is being recorded and it will be up on YouTube.
And if we mention any tools during the broadcast as well, we'll be sure to include those within the chat. We'll send out any tools that we mentioned along with relevant websites that we mentioned as well. So just keep that in mind. The chat box there is in the right-hand bottom corner. If you have anything to ask, just go ahead and fire away throughout the webinar.
We will be here for it's usually about a 15 to 20 minute Q&A session at the end to answer any questions you guys have around digital marketing, real estate marketing, anything.
Exactly. So if you type into the chat and we don't answer back right away, we will get to all those questions in the Q&A.
But let's hop into the content. So what's in this webinar? In this webinar, we're going to learn really what you can use to create compelling content, how to actually do it, and then we're going to take one step further and say, okay, you've created this content, it's great, but how do you get people to actually come through and look at the traffic? And then we will, at the end, like we said, move into the Q&A.
Because we like to always say, you know, creating content is half the battle, the other half is getting eyeballs on that content. So it's important to look at both aspects in terms of creating great content.
So why is this important, and why has it become so important? Well, last year in the States, we know there was 550 million blog posts created. We know that the average American consumes 3 blog posts per day. So we're really living in this era of where everyone can be a content producer and everyone is absorbing new content every day. They're using social media, their friends, to get it, email, sites that they trust like BuzzFeed, to really get and absorb all of this content. So we want to show you guys, okay, how do we stand out from the noise? If everyone is involved and everyone is going and trying to create content, how can we take a really, really refined strategy, especially in the real estate space, so you guys can attract content and start to build your audience. The first thing you're going to do before you build any blog content, video, infographics, whatever it may be, is you're going to have to identify what platform you'd like to use. So we got a picture here of a couple of blogging platforms, whether it's Blogger, Tumblr, TypePad, WordPress. I mean, you want to look at photos. You can look at if you're going to use Photoshop, videos, if you're going to use an Adobe product like Adobe Premiere, or if you're just going to film right from your phone and upload to a place like YouTube. Those are all options. So really, you got to identify first. As for blogging, we personally use WordPress on, I don't know, 90% of our sites. Yep. So we find WordPress to be super easy to use. There are a ton of resources online for you to figure out how to set up a WordPress blog. They give you the themes. You don't have to be a professional web developer. They really walk you through on how to set it up so you can start writing. So that's the first thing you got to do is, you know, what program are you going to use. So spend some time research, see what's best for the type of content that you want to put out.
And a lot of these options are free as well. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars to get your blog set up. It's really a simple process, and once you get it up, you can then start getting more eyeballs on your content, which gets people familiar with your brand, and then, of course, you can bring them over to your website from your blog. So it's a great little process that you can set up for yourself.
And why do you want to do this? I mean, we talked about how it's buzzing before, but today we see that business buyers aren't contacting suppliers directly until 57% of the purchase process is complete. So, I mean, this sounds kind of complex. Justin, can you explain, I mean, what this really means?
I think that the most important thing to remember here is that, you know, everyone has a website, and, you know, hopefully you're presenting yourself well on your website. Everyone's promising the best service, but I think that content is really the way that you can stand out from the noise. If you're creating great content on your social platforms, on your blog, if you're creating video content, these are all ways that you can stand out to your potential customers and make sure that when they're doing research on you, that they can find out, you know, that this person is the local expert and they know what they're talking about when it comes to real estate in my community. So it's important to build that presence if you want to get in front of people before they contact you and before they complete this process.
You also got to look at that. People have a very strong BS meter, and if they see on a page, or not even BS, but if they see on a page, you know, hey, I am committed to quality service, is what you put as content. That's assumed, right? We assume that everyone on this webinar and every business that I interact with, I hope that they're committed to quality service. So like Justin said, you want to get above that, the typical content that you put on your website and really show that you are different.
Absolutely.
And you can add more value. So you pick your platform, where do you start? And the place to start is really with your audience. And you see here there's an auditorium full of people. I wanted to put this slide first that, you know, this is where you can be, but really where you start with one person. Create content for one persona. So if you are specifically selling homes to first-time home buyers, young families, or maybe you sell luxury properties or places for retirees, vacation homes, you really got to look at, okay, hey, I sell properties to, let's say, first-time home buyers in the greater Los Angeles area, you know, your neighborhood, maybe Venice Beach, whatever it might be. What type of content would that person want? Once you're able to go back and say, okay, I'm going to create content for a first-time home buyer on, hey, here are tips that you should know about buying your first house in Venice Beach. If you can create a contextual relationship with this person, this one person that this persona that you made up, you're going to be able to reach that person, and they're going to start to share it with their friends once they've gotten value from it. And typically people will hang out with other people that are in similar life situations to them, like being ready to purchase a home or getting close to retiring. So that's how you are able to take this one and turn it into this. Now, before we go any further, and I really want to, we have this slide here with the famous lyric, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because I really want to put a reality check when it comes to creating content. We get asked all the time, hey, I want the Dollar Shave Club, or I want to go commercial, or I want to go viral. And I think a lot of times people really, really don't value a small audience. So you see here, this is a blog post that I actually wrote, and it got 34 views in the last 6 months. Now, can you guys just type in the chat for me if you think that 34 views is a small amount or a big amount of views, or exactly where you think a blog post would go. So just you can type big, small, medium. Not a McDonald's order, but I'll get the I get the gist of it. All right, so unanimously people are coming in very low, very low, very low, small. Some people say that that's big. Now, here's what I want to question to you. If I said to you tonight that I have 40 people or 34 people that are interested in your content and want to come down to a local high school and hear you talk about it for 10 minutes, would you be excited about that? I'm going to see the answers flooding in.
A lot more yeses. A
lot more yeses. Right? So now, guys, if we can take this mentality and bring it into content online, it's a start. Like, I am so pumped up that 34 people stopped their day to read what I had to say. And this is a low amount. We have ones that go more, but I wanted to bring a low one in to show you guys that, hey, this is awesome. Because if you told me that I can get 34 people interested in my content to stop and read it, or to stop and hear me talk, I'm excited.
And you've got to take this mindset that Jordan's talking about when you're first starting. You have to celebrate the small victories, the first 10 people that view a blog post, the first 50 people that view a blog post or a social post, because we all start somewhere, and it's certainly hardest in the beginning to build that audience, but you'll find that once you do, get to 100 people looking at your content every time you produce it, you'll find that it only grows from there, and it grows much faster. So, in the beginning, keep that mindset where, if you had 34 people in front of you in a room, that's a big success. Pat yourself on the back and keep doing the hard work, because you will get into the hundreds and the thousands of views if you consistently keep at it.
And you never know who's looking. One of these 34 people could have a sibling, they could be an aunt, an uncle that's ready to move, and you're able to provide them value. They could refer you right now. Like, stranger things have happened to us, stranger things have happened to people we've worked with, getting 30, 40, 50 views, but having something come out of that, it will be worth it.
And the last thing I'll say is that if the small number of people isn't motivating you, I'll give you something that should motivate you. If you Google your name, which is what a lot of people will do when they're researching you and want to find out more about you, what comes up on the first page of Google? If it isn't all stuff relevant to you, about you, maybe content you've produced, then you need to be writing articles, because this is the kind of stuff that will then show up on that page, and that'll give people who are further down the funnel, who are actually searching for you, more information about you, and let them know that you are online and have a presence on the web. So, those first few articles, while they may not have thousands of views, they are helping you in search.
And it might be a person can find you in search, check out around your website, end up on one or two of your blog posts, and then decide they've gotten that 57% marker where they're ready to contact you, and you think, oh, I only got 1 or 2 views. You don't know, that person could have been more. Scoping your social media, your Twitter account beforehand. There's really opportunity here to celebrate and really look at this as a small audience is better than no audience.
Absolutely.
So what are you creating? So we've got our audience, but what are we really creating? It can be blogs, it could be infographics, it can be videos, but what you're really creating is a story. You're creating a story that helps you connect and build connections with potential home buyers and sellers, and with just, people in general. We're looking at this giant generation, which, if you guys know, you're on the last webinar where we talked about millennials and what they're looking for. They're going to be the biggest home buying and selling generation, and all they do is eat up content, and they really, really, really want to feel a connection and be well informed before making a decision.
And look, we know you guys are connected to your communities, and when you hear, a news story or you get a scoop, this is the perfect time to start creating that story. You can craft, you know, the scoop that you have into a blog post. You can put it into a social media post. You can shoot a short video about it. These are all ways that you can, you know, take your knowledge and your insight in your community and show people, your potential buyers, that you are the local expert. And that's really the story that you want to be drafting for yourself.
So what types of content can you do? I mean, you can do, you know, at the top level, you can do infographics, videos, blogs, that sort of stuff. But really what you can do is you can actually get into one of these 4 quadrants. If you look at entertain, inspire, convince, and educate. And this would be one that right now I would hit screenshot if I was watching this webinar.
Yeah, but you should really be writing these 4 types of content down. And before you start any social media post, video, or blog, think about what your goal is. Are you trying to entertain, inspire, convince, or educate? And if you're not trying to do any of those things, you should probably go back to the drawing board and figure out a way that you can do one of those 4 things. This is sort of like the holy grail of creating content. You always want to be doing one of these 4 things and giving that value to your audience.
And you can see some of these, you know, some of these pieces of content fall in between the 2, and that's okay. Because you're going to see, right, we have right here, educate, entertain, educate, and convince. These 2 pieces of content are for people who are in different parts of the funnel. We know that people buy every 5 to 7 years, but we don't know if they're in, you know, year 4, day 364, and ready to purchase tomorrow and contact an agent and get that ball rolling, or if they're in day 2. So we want to make sure that we're with them along the entire journey.
Yeah, and we want to talk a little bit too here about expectations, because, you know, there's different types of content, and when you write these posts, you need to keep your expectations in mind. If you're writing about, like we have on the left here, the 8 most essential coffee shops in Raleigh, and then on the right we have a different article, the 5 best cities for millennials in North Carolina. For the coffee shop article, you should be expecting a wider audience. Probably more people are going to view it, but it's more top of funnel. For the 5 best cities for millennials in North Carolina, that's getting closer to the bottom of the funnel. You should expect less people to see it, but they're definitely lower in the funnel. So just keep those expectations in mind. And, you know, if you're producing both of these articles, hopefully you can work a way to move people from the coffee shop article into the 5 best cities for millennials in North Carolina article, because you're moving people down the content funnel that way and getting people closer to buying real estate with you.
So we've gotten this, right? We figured out what's our expertise. We're there now. We're going to talk, you know, we've got these different types of content, this holy grail of content types. I want to talk to you guys about quality over quantity, and more so this idea that we talk about internally all the time called disproportionate results. And what disproportionate results are, you know, if you put 1.5 hours into a blog post and you receive 100 views, proportionate results would be, okay, if you put 2 hours in, you'll get 200, 3 hours, 300. The problem is content doesn't work like that. Content usually works along the lines that if you put in 2 times the effort into a piece of content, a lot of times you will yield 5 to 10 times the return with regards to visitors and people actually seeing your content. Because we talked at the start, there's 550 million blogs being posted a year. Most people are spending an hour and a half in creating really average content, right? Where we have an opportunity is if you say, okay, I'm going to make something 2 or 3 times as good. I'm going to put that effort in. I'm going to study. I'm going to get some statistics. I'm going to get the walk score. I'm going to share that information, you know, amongst people and really let them know that, hey, I'm an expert and I got something valuable to say.
And I'll give you an example of how this works. So we just talked about an article on the best coffee shops. I think it was in Charlotte. If you write that article and you know the Charlotte area and you know the coffee shops well, you can probably write that article in a couple of hours. If you then share that article, you'll see, you know, X amount of people reading it. If you take an extra hour and message all of the coffee shops that you mentioned in the article, you're going to see easily 10 times the people coming to your page, because those coffee shops are going to share that article on their pages, and you'll have a whole new group of people looking at your content. So always think about how you can go that extra mile, whether it's in planning or in syndication or in writing the article or in shooting a video, because those extra hours that you put in, they really do lead to these disproportionate results.
And we, as we usually do at the end where we go live, we will show you guys an example of that with that actual Raleigh coffee shop. Next, I mean, you've built this content, you've defined your audience, you've built this content, you've set your expectations, but there is stuff that you should be doing as kind of a best practice to make sure that your stuff's getting out there. This right here is another thing that we use all the time, and it's a social sharing schedule. I think a lot of people make this mistake where they create great content, they post it on their Facebook once, and they think they're not allowed to post it again, which is so inaccurate. You can, if you really believe in the content, you think it's a great piece, post it again a week later. If it didn't do so well on social media, you're allowed to change the title of it and repost it with a new image. So just don't forget that you need to constantly, and especially places like Twitter, you can see here, guys, you have to be posting, you know, because of the nature of that beast, you have to be posting this content, you know, pretty regularly. And this is where we're actually gonna pass it up to John. He's got some interesting stuff that he's gonna be showing you guys with how to leverage content within the Listingbook platform that you guys can start to use in your marketing efforts as well. Oh, John, we can't seem to hear you. John, are you?
Yeah, I got it now. Hey guys, we just wanted to take a minute and show you the tabs that are available and the power of the content that you already have at your fingertips in Listingbook. Once you are in our system, you're able to, as you pull up an individual property, you'll notice the bar of tabs at the top, and I'm highlighting the area sales, similar listings, the community and school information, and public records. As we look at the next slide, you'll be able to see that once you click into the area, the sales, that around in a 2-mile circumference of this particular home, these are homes that have sold within that area, which gives you really good content in terms of dealing with an individual, or also if you're writing a blog or you're giving out information in a particular area that you're working on. In the next slide, you'll see that if you click on the similar listings tab, okay, I'm sorry, back up on the area sales, if you'll notice at the bottom, the numbers, the pricing related to that address, if it's blue, you'll see that you can click on it and it will give you the price change history of that particular property as well. Again, it's more strong content either individually to be able to use or collectively if you're looking at price changes in an area. Similar listings, the next tab is exactly as it would suggest. It's showing on the next slide that the listings that are similar and in proximity to that particular address. On the next slide, and I've lost my connection, but the next slide is going to show community information. And one of the things that is real interesting here is you're able to get quick facts for that community that you can use as you blog about that area. But also on the next slide, one of the tabs within that community information is a comparative community overview. So you're actually able to go in and put in 2 different locations and have comparative information. Again, really strong content that you can use as you're reaching out to your clients. The next tab is public records, and again, that's just giving you really good information about this particular property. And all of these tabs, the idea being that collectively it provides a lot of content that you can then weave into your blogs or as you're speaking with groups or individuals regarding the area, helping to show you as an expert in that particular locale. If you have questions, we're going to move into the Q&A time, so go ahead and start typing them in the chat area, and we'll address those in just a minute. Now that you've heard how important good content is, and you've seen what a great resource Listingbook can be when trying to come up with great content, we wanted to offer an opportunity for you to spend some time with one of our coaches that will personally walk you through this powerful tool. So to take advantage of this offer, if you will type the word special into the chat area, one of our coaches will reach out to you and set an appointment at a time that's convenient for you to go through some of these different tabs and how to best use the system. Again, if you'll just type the word special in the chat area, we'll be sure to reach out to you and connect you with a coach. Well, now let's get on to some questions. Justin and Jordan, what have you got?
Yeah, guys, we've got a lot of questions coming in. The first one we're going to tackle, it's a two-part question, is how often should we post content, and how do we get people to actually see our content? So, Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to posting content, if you're creating blogs, a good number to set for yourself is try to once a week write a piece of blog content that you can get up on your site. You know, if you can devote a couple of hours into putting together a piece of content, getting that up, I would say once a week is a great place to start. And as you grow your audience, you can scale that up as well because they'll be wanting more content. But you know, for starters, that's a good place to start. For getting people to see your blog, there's a lot of things that you can do. The first thing we recommend is that once you write a piece of content for your blog, that you get it out on social networks. You should be sharing that on your Facebook, on your Twitter, any other relevant social networks that you're on. Be sure to post that content, and it's like the graphic that we had before. You'll be able to post that content, you know, at least a few times a day on Twitter when you first post it, and then maybe a couple times a week after that. On Facebook, you can do it the day that you post it, and then a month later reuse that content. The other things that we recommend doing is if you mention any businesses in any articles that you write, be sure to share the content with businesses. Businesses love it when you mention them within your articles. If you're talking about good restaurants in your area or, you know, trusted providers that you work with, share that content with them and say, feel free to share it to them, and they will share it with their audience. That's another great way to get more eyeballs, more people looking at your content. Outside of that, if you have a piece of content that you've written that you think, you know, is really valuable to a certain demographic, you can pay to promote that content to people that you select on places like Facebook. It's really simple. There's a boost post button in the bottom right-hand corner of Facebook. If you have a business page, just post the content on Facebook. If you click boost post, you can pay as little as $5 to get that in front of a select group of people that you choose. And that's a really great way if you're writing specific content, maybe similar to the 5 Best Cities for Millennials in Charlotte article that we talked about. You could post that article and then boost it so that it only gets shown to people who are millennials within Charlotte who have shown signs that they would like to purchase property. So that's a great little tip if you're looking to pay a little bit of money as well.
The next question we have is there a good enough potential ROI to make it worth spending time writing original content, or should we pay someone for original content? So this question has a couple answers. One, if you have a big enough budget, and say you're a broker owner, sure, you can pay an agency. They'll come in, they'll learn your in and outs of your business, and they'll create, you know, some great content. But if you're an agent or on an agent team, a lot of times you don't have that resource, and paying for content means usually underpaying for content. So I would say not to do it unless you have, you know, the budget for it. What I would say to do is to spend time on creating original content. And if you're not a great writer, we get this all the time, say, hey, I'm not a great writer. That's okay. You can do two things. You can practice and become a better writer, or you can double down on a form of content that you can do. Some people can't write, but a lot of you guys are, you know, it's kind of the nature of the profession is realtors are some of the most personable, you know, people that I know. So use that to your advantage. Create short videos on your phone with 5 tips for first-time home buyers. Put that on YouTube. Put it on Facebook video. If you're good at making graphics, use Photoshop. Create some good graphics. The content doesn't always have to be good. And with regards to ROI, I think there's a tremendous amount of ROI in content marketing, because though content marketing is one of the hardest things to do with regards to, you have to put time in and to build an audience, it's tough, but it's also one of the most dispensable types of marketing, and it's something that, if you put together a great piece of content, it can be one of your best employees, bringing traffic to your website 24/7, 365, and generating leads for you. So I definitely think there is a giant opportunity.
We've got another question here that's around video content. We've spoken a little bit about creating blog content, but what about videos? I'll talk a little bit about it here. As Jordan, alluded to, YouTube and Facebook are 2 great places to be sharing your video content. Snapchat as well, but it's a much shorter. You're going to be sending out 10-second videos, so it's a lot shorter. But those are all really good places to be sharing that video content. As to what you should be making or creating, it doesn't have to be a big setup when you think of video content. Everyone has a mobile phone that shoots high-quality video. It can be as simple as you sitting in your car and talking about something that's come across your news desk that you're thinking, wow, this is valuable stuff and I have something to add to it. Anything that you find throughout the day that maybe would be interesting enough for you to bring up at the dinner table and talk about is stuff that you can put into video content and provide to your potential buyers. Yeah, just take the news stories that you hear about every day or the scoops that you get and bring them up in a video that you shoot with your iPhone in front of you and talk about how you feel about it and how you think it's going to affect the market or what you think the implications are. This is all great stuff that people love to consume, and if you get comfortable in front of a camera, the great thing is that you can do these videos in 5 minutes, and as long as you plan it out right, you'll still be providing really good content to people. So we definitely recommend that if you've got the gumption to get in front of a camera and start talking about how you feel about relevant news articles or market happenings.
We have another question in here. Is how long should the content that I'm creating be? So this is there's no perfect answer. Some posts, blog posts, ones that rank really well on search engines tend to be over 1,500 words. Though, if you're writing about something and you can only really put, if 500 words is enough to get across the point and that's a lot of value add, 500 words is totally fine. And then with regards to video, kind of building off what Justin said about learning and becoming comfortable in front of the camera, I would say start with under 5-minute videos and get points across quickly, and then build from there and test out. It's a lot easier to talk for 5 minutes in video than it is to talk for 25 or 30.
The other thing that we're seeing right now, there's a big trend on Facebook called Facebook Live, and what it is when you click the live button on Facebook on your phone, you'll actually go live to all of your followers on Facebook. And while that may seem scary, it actually jumps the Facebook algorithm. So a lot of people will be getting notified that you're going live and will see the content. So if you have something that you think is really valuable, you might want to consider going live on a place like Facebook, because it's a great way to get in front of more people. And if you're seeing only 10, 20 people seeing your Facebook posts and you're kind of down about that, going live can be a great way to jump the algorithm and get more people viewing your content.
Okay, we had a question. Does Facebook Live get recorded and shown on Facebook later after viewing? Yes, it does actually. And so if you go and you record a video on Facebook Live, it will then save and post to your page, and people can go back and watch it afterwards.
And if you are live and you've only got 1 or 2 people watching, don't be discouraged. 95% of the people that view your video will view it after it's been recorded. So, don't get discouraged if you only have 1 person watching while you actually are live, because that will save to Facebook, as Jordan was saying, for later viewing, and a lot more people will watch it after you go live. It still will stay high up in people's news feeds. One thing I want to mention is if you do go live, do not post on Facebook at least for 3 hours after you go live. You want that content to stay at the top of your page, and if you post something after you go live, that piece of content will then become the most prioritized. So if you go live on Facebook, don't post anything for at least 3 hours after you do go live, and that way you can guarantee that the most people will see that video.
Okay, so we had a question, what type of content does the best? You know what, this is when I say go back to that screenshot we had at the start with the 4 types. Really, the type of content in real estate that does best is information where you've written, hey, here's the best place to live for retired couples, here are the best places to move after college, here's what you need to, here are 10 ways to improve your home value for under $100. Just real, the stuff that does best is the stuff that you know the most about.
And if you test the waters, you can really get a grip on what type of content your audience is enjoying the most from you. Maybe you're a great writer and they prefer blog content and that's what you should focus your efforts on. Or maybe, most realtors are pretty good salespeople and getting in front of a camera is probably a really good way as well to reach people. You may see that you get a bigger ROI on that than you do on creating blog posts. But it's important to test everything out and be sure no matter what you do, whether it's writing content for your blog or getting on video, that you share that stuff on social media. As a rule of thumb, we think that you should spend at least the same amount of time that you spent writing or creating the video on syndicating the content and getting it in front of more people. And as Jordan mentioned before, if you can't get yourself in front of a lot of people, there's no rule that says that you can't change the title of the video or the title of the blog post that you're writing or the image that you have featured. Change that and test it out again. Often that can lead to good results and you'll get more people looking at your content. So just keep that in mind.
And guys, we noticed it slowed down a little bit with the questions, but most people are still staying on the webinar. Don't hesitate. If you have any questions, we're going to hang out for another 5 to 10 minutes here and answer any questions you guys have about real estate marketing or content creation. Okay, so we got one. Should we put the same type of content that we put on Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram? So this is kind of a two-part question. I think, yes, the same blog posts per se, but I also think you have to really recognize what audience is on that platform. So you might put a listing, on Facebook. You might sprinkle that in with your content, but trying to get someone to go to your listing through Instagram, I don't think is going to, is going to happen. I think you can put up nice photos and stuff, but really relying on it to drive people back to the page or drive people back to a blog post, it's kind of different rules. So I would just look at each platform as its own kind of social space, and knowing that they're different platforms that require that you act differently on them.
Okay, so we've got another question here. How do I notify businesses if I mention them in articles that I write? So there's a few ways that you can do this. If you mention a business in your article, number one, you can send an email to them and let them know. Just put in the subject line, press, and if you put press in there, any restaurant or moving company that you send that to will open it. You could also message them on Facebook, which is a great option because that's likely the place that you would like to see them share it the most. If they share it on Facebook, you're going to get a whole lot more views on your stuff than if they share it on Twitter or one of the other platforms. So Facebook should always be kept in mind. The third thing that I'll mention that you can do is you can actually mention the business in the post that you share on Facebook. So if you're posting on Facebook that you've just written this article, all you have to do is type the @ symbol and then type the name of the business, and that business will pop up and you can actually tag them within the post. And that's a great way to entice people to share it straight from your page, which is great because they'll be seeing your content as well as your Facebook page within the post. So those are 3 options that you can take.
And that kind of answers that next question we had about reverse solicitation outside of an email. Honestly, go to a Facebook page from your personal page and write them a message saying, hey guys, you came in number 3 at our list, or I'd love to get your comments on something. And when you mention them, link, and make sure in the content you link back to their Facebook page or to their website. And that's something that would really, really be useful.
And as a bonus, we've done this quite a bit, and you're likely to get a free meal or a free drink out of it too. So,
so we know too. We got a question coming in here. What about content for home sellers? One of the things that you can do is we got to also look at our audience too, right? Are we trying to be the buying agent, or are we trying to be the listing agent? And for home sellers, I mean, a lot of times people, you guys know this, they want to know how the market is doing. Is it a good time for them to sell? What sold near them recently? And, what should they list for? So I think really keep informing people about how the market is doing. You have a pulse on it, right? You guys are staying informed. You're reading. What the last transaction went for in your neighborhood. I would really, really, really look to educate sellers on what kind of return they're going to get on their place. And then also on the flip side of that, with buyers, right? You want to be able to answer buyer questions through what is the walk score? Where are the best schools? What are the drive times to work? All of that kind of stuff is very important on the other side. So that comes back to identifying your audience. What is your piece of content targeted towards with regards to the audience? And then kind of answering their questions. And
the sellers who want to know how the market is doing, the best way to get in front of them is to stay informed on the local news. You're following all the local news on real estate in your area. When you find something that's interesting, turn that news into a blog post or a video and offer your insight on it. That's a great way to show that you're up to date and that you have an opinion on what's happening, and to show people that you're the local expert and that they can sell their home with you.
And that's actually a great segue, and even just a reference back to, Listingbook is a great tool to find that, to have that information. It's right at your fingertips, giving you real specific information for targeting either the seller's area or buyers. So that's a great place to accumulate that, or to gather that data from. I want to thank Jordan and Justin from Cave Group, as well as our agent audience, for attendance and especially your engagement. Great questions. Also, for those of you that are listening to this on YouTube after the fact, if you too would like to hear from a coach, just email sconnolly, SCONNOLLY at listingbook.com. You should see that address on your screen on YouTube. And we'll definitely get a coach to reach out to you and give you an opportunity to participate in Listingbook, the offer that we had. Please invite your friends to the next webinar. We'll be sending an email out with the date and the information shortly. And it's been fun and instructive. And on behalf of Jordan, Justin, and all of us at Listingbook, make it a great day of sales.